Welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin,
I'm Craig.
And I'm Daniel.
and this is the part two of our Avatar Netflix series. We covered the first four episodes the last time, and we all agreed that it's kind of bad. It's not a good adaptation. And then we kind of talked about what's the point in adapting something that was already good too. It's not like they're adapting something that was terrible and they made it good. It's like the reverse. So in this episode, we're going to cover the last four episodes, episodes 5 to 8. And gentlemen, let me pose a question. Did you think the last four episodes redeemed the show?
That's supposed to be a joke. Is this some
Yeah.
out of season April Fool's joke?
No, it's not. Well, Craig, you're the biggest Avatar fan out of all of us. So why don't you tell me what you thought of the last four episodes?
I mean, nothing really changed. My opinion didn't change. It's just bad. Very poor adaptation. Basically, whatever I said last episode, it really just applies to these next four episodes. Nothing really changed. It didn't redeem itself, didn't get better. It just stayed the same poor quality.
Okay. Daniel?
Yeah, I don't think it got better. It just it stayed bad.
I thought it was a little bit more entertaining than the first four, but that's not really saying much. Because I thought the first episode of the series, the one where it's Aang's backstory, I thought that was completely unnecessary. They didn't need to show everything, and especially as Craig said, it was not how it was in the show.
Well, yeah, in the show they introduced things as you went along. They didn't
Yeah.
info dump every little detail in front of you, and like make up stuff too that didn't add to the show, like v- finding the Fire Lord's plans when everyone knew he was going to invade the Earth Kingdom. It wasn't a secret. People knew
So
for years.
yeah, real quick, I was gonna say episode 5, the one that's titled "Spirited Away." I don't know if that was in the show, but it felt like a filler episode, honestly.
See, again, this wasn't the filler episode in the show. It was actually incredibly important. This is when Aang learned he finally meets the previous Avatar, Avatar Roku, and he's told explicitly that Sozin's Comet is coming again at the end of the summer. You have to do everything in less than a year. You have to master all the elements. You have to defeat the Fire Lord before the comet comes. Otherwise, the world is screwed.
I don't
It
think
was
they
a
did
very,
that. I don't think they did that in the show, right? At least
no,
in
of course not.
okay. They
No, I
mentioned a
think
comment at the end.
yeah, that was at the end of the show. But the when he spoke with Avatar Roku, it was more of just like going in. It was going opposite of what the previous Avatar told him. Because didn't the first Avatar, I forget the
Kyoshi.
Avatar's name, but said, "Oh, you have to be like a fierce warrior." And then wasn't it Roku was like, "Oh, avatars are also meant to be diplomats. You kind of have to foster peace where you can."
Which is kind of funny coming from him, where his
He's the
whole
fire one.
well, not only that, but his whole big failing, because they often give advice, his whole thing was that he wasn't decisive enough. He was friends with the previous Fire Lord, so he was a little too soft on him. Because again, in the show, the previous Fire Lord, the guy who started the Hundred Year War, he did invade the Earth Kingdom, and Roku told him, "Pull your troops out, or I'm going to have to kill you." And he pulled his troops out. So it's not like that's why all this nonsense about all this backstory doesn't really make much sense in terms of the show.
I mean, I figured the show would have done it better where he explicitly tells Aang about the comet, because they just kind of throw that in at the end. It's like, ooh, this is what's coming in season 2. Ooh. I definitely think it would have been more important if it's that ticking time clock you have in movies or even shows where it it's make things urgent. Like, okay, he has a year to master all this stuff.
I think in terms of the show, because it was the winter solstice, so that's obviously in December. Susan's comet probably comes at the end of August, maybe beginning of September. So he has 9 months to basically do everything.
Yeah, so time is of the essence. And this one, it's kind of weird the ending where they're all kind of not too happy, but they're all kind of like laughing, even though this whole water tribe just got destroyed. Everything's in ruins. That one guy died.
Like it did, and like, oh my, like lost control.
Oh yeah, okay, so I don't mean to jump ahead. Did that happen in the show where he essentially turned into a water Godzilla? That was crazy.
Again, it did happen in the show. So after the spirit got killed, the spirit called to Aang, and then that was the spirit unleashing its wrath on the Fire Nation. So yes, that happened. But was it again in the show is Aang's giving himself up to the spirit, he's gonna become a vessel for the spirit for the rest of his life. And like, no, that's not what happened. He just unleashed the spirit's wrath until it got healed.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't like he was gonna be
And
lost
how
forever.
and how early did that happen on? Was that in the first season?
Yeah, all the stuff that happened basically happened in the first season, but again, over 20
Okay.
episodes
Okay, the
as
real
opposed
question
to
is, did this happen in the
Okay, yeah.
Shyamalan movie? Because when I was watching it, I
yes.
think I did remember something from the Shyamalan movie where there's like a fish. I remember that at the end, like the fish was important. And it turns out that it was that girl who sacrifices herself to become like the fish or whatever.
Yeah, because she had part of the spirit in her, so she gave
Yeah.
it back.
I remember that from the Shyamalan one because I guess I was watching it as background noise years ago, and then through osmosis, I remember that somehow.
Yeah,
That was
because I don't
crazy.
really
Because
remember much of the
it's just
Shyamalan one, but yeah, I know
We should
what's in
definitely
it.
because
we should definitely watch that.
it's just and like I know we talked about it in the other episode, but it was like this is like oh so much for 8 episodes. It's just getting like thrown in. Like obviously it all happens in like you said, this all happens in the first season. Um,
Well, I think like you have 20 episodes from the original show.
yeah.
About half an hour.
Yeah, each one's about 22 minutes probably because those stupid commercials, they gotta fit 8 minutes. And you're condensing that into 8 episodes.
Hmm. So I don't know if this has something to do with Netflix's new mandates, but I did look at the One Piece show,
Is that
which
eight
did get
episodes?
it was 8 episodes.
Ah.
But from what I remember from One Piece, the very little that I watched it, or
You
like a lot of
watched
those
that?
well, like a few episodes when I was younger on
Oh,
Toonami.
the original one. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like those episodes were multi-part episodes. Like they would kind of like flow into the next one. So it's kind of easier to draw like make a full hour episode from 3 episodes or whatever. This again, like we mentioned before, it's not the same. Each episode's kind of self-contained. There's not really multi-part episodes. Like the episode begins and ends, but it's part of the overarching journey. So like for example, the Winter Solstice episode
That was
was a
2 episodes.
two-parter,
Yeah, I saw that.
but of course
Wikipedia.
they don't choose to adapt the two parts. They just pull whatever they can from other episodes because they're
That wasn't the
running out
whole
of time.
like 2 parts?
No.
Wow, that's crazy. I was gonna say when you're talking about One Piece, what's crazy, I don't know how they condensed whatever they did from One Piece to 8 episodes. Those like animes, especially like I know I'll speak on Pokemon, the original Pokemon series. Season one's like 40 episodes, like 40, 50. It's insane how they were just like churning those out. I can only imagine what One Piece is. I don't even know what that is. Like how many
I think they're over
episodes?
1,000 episodes,
My God.
Yeah.
which over how many years, but it's one story. At least Pokemon, it's kind of per region, so you kind of get like a little bit of a story here, about 200 episodes or so. Which not that it's much better, but because Pokemon's at over 1,000 too, but no one's gonna watch
Jesus.
all 1,000 in one sitting.
1098.
You just look that up.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, then we'll go back on Avatar. Oh my God. All right, season one is 61 episodes. I'm scrolling through. Season 20 is 197 episodes.
Season 20 of what
Yeah.
One Piece
Yeah,
or
One Piece.
oh,
197 episodes. That is insane. All right, anyway, back to Avatar.
that's why I think it's easy to adapt. There's like so many episodes you could just like probably pile together. Well, this is each episode I guess has more substance.
Now, I do have a question. Did Netflix like mandate the 8 episode season run?
That's what I was
Because
thinking.
Probably.
because like I remember years ago, like for example, like Daredevil, like 13 episodes. And it seemed like all these other shows on Netflix had longer seasons, but now it's like everything is like 8 episodes.
I see. I wonder if maybe through their
Well,
all the data that they have.
aren't they like in financial trouble or they're not making nearly as much?
I don't think they've ever made a profit.
Well, whatever.
Because
The point
this
is maybe they're just cutting down on the episodes to save money.
See, my theory was I think they've mastered the algorithm where they think 8 episodes is enough to capture people's attention. It's easy enough to binge. 13 maybe is too long. I think that's probably what it more is. They have perfected the binging length.
I mean, I think they should make exceptions. Like it shouldn't all be 8 episodes. I think no matter what the show is, if it's good, people will watch it. I mean, Cobra Kai is 10 episodes each season.
But 10
Yeah.
half-hour episodes.
This is also very true.
Well, because the same thing happened for The Witcher. Like
I never
everything's
watched that.
condi but everything's condensed into 8 episodes. The Witcher has, I think it's like originally it's like 8 books of the original source material plus 3 video games, which made it popular. But the show has 8 episodes, like 3 seasons of 8 episodes. So it's like when you're going through the show, it like condenses, it like cuts out things, and it's like this, it's a relatively big like fantasy world where you can take time to explain things and get to know characters, but it kind of rushes the story and it throws a lot and it's oversaturated. And I feel like this, not that even if you did take time to explain Avatar, it would have been good, but it would have been better. It's just you're overloading everything.
I think it just things need time to breathe because, like with the original show, there were just some episodes where they were just kind of, goofing off, gets to know the characters better. You don't have to, not everything is, Dar, we got to save the world right now. There's just time for characters to be themselves and they get the bond and all that fun stuff that all the little miss side adventures they can go on.
I'm
Probably the
assuming the
same thing with The
show
Witcher.
also showed Katara actually learning like throughout the season her waterbending because it's like in one episode she just masters everything.
Well, the best part too is in the show, she fights Paku, the old man at the Northern Water Tribe, and she's not a master. She gets beaten by him pretty good, but in the TV show, she still learns under him, so she can get better and better and better. By the end of the show, she's probably closer to a master. But here, she loses to him. But well, you're kind of good, so let me give you the title of master. So you don't have to do any training.
Well, you see,
It's just
Craig,
it's lazy.
it seems the original knew what they call character development and character arcs.
Well,
Well,
just like
they
things
knew
making
what better
sense.
writing was.
Yeah.
Well, character that would be included in good writing, knowing how to actually develop characters.
Like I remember
Yeah, it's
rolling
just
my eyes when they go to her like Master Katara, and she's like, "Master." It's like,
When did
where you
she
get where do you
when
get
did
off
she
calling
get the
yourself
rank
Master?
of master in the show?
Well, there really isn't a rank. It's really just what they call you. No one ever called her a master, but like if we're looking at skills, I'm using air quotations. It's probably into the show because she got really good at it by the end of the show.
yeah, 3 seasons.
Which, granted, you could say it's only a year in their world, but I imagine trial by fire, you learn pretty quickly. So it's not it's close enough. But no one ever called her master.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
the fact that she's like able to even match Zoro by the end of the season, it's just like it's ridiculous. Like this dude's been training
You mean
under
Zuko?
his
You said
what?
Zoro, so I got confused.
Yeah, the prince. Sorry,
Zuko.
like
Even I know that.
yeah. Okay,
Watching too many Antonio Banderas movies.
you caught me. Um, the fact that she's able to even like somewhat match him is like it's a joke. Like this dude's been training his whole life under like the best, and she like is able to like somewhat like match him and like it was it like she like froze him in the end fight for a bit. Like it's like what?
Well, because that's what kind of happened in the show, but again, it kind of made sense. He was surrounded by ice, and in a full moon, waterbenders are just more powerful. So she did kind of beat him, but again, it was a lot was playing into her favor. The one with the sun came up, he beat her. So
Yeah, I was confused for a second when she was like freezing him. I was like, "What?" But
yeah, they
then,
can do that, but
but only if there's like a full moon or whatever, the solstice.
I mean, you can freeze people, but again, it usually involves more water stuff.
Hmm.
Supposedly, like, really good if you can do that, but again, the show is not very well written.
Well, it's like they cut out important little details like that, but they want to expo dump on everything on someone's backstory, like take up all this time.
Did that
Walks
also
into
happen
them.
in the show where Zuko's dad like beats him and then burns his face?
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
So that was in the show, but again, they tried to make Ozai a little more sympathetic, where he sends Zuko on his mission because you need to learn how to be like a man. In the show, he absolutely hated his son. He had no qualms about like just burning him in the face. He burned him in the face, then banished him, and because in the show they make it seem like, oh, I'm going to send this mission, we will grow and become a better person. He in the show he was banished, and he was never intended to come back home. Like, that's why he was sent to hunt the Avatar, a guy who hadn't been seen in almost 100
Yeah, it
years.
was like a goose chase.
Yeah, he was never supposed to come home, and there was never supposed to be this trial where Zuko learns to become a better person. It's like, I want you out of my life forever.
Yeah, because I noticed that they showed a little apprehension on his face when he was like burning Zuko.
No, he walked over and just burned him in the face. Like, as Zuko
Yeah,
was
it would have been
crying,
better if he just, doubled down.
because in the show, Zuko was crying because I'm so sorry, Father, I didn't mean to disrespect you, please. And then he just walks over and just burns him in the face. No hesitation.
What a beast.
He would have been great in Cobra Kai,
Yeah, really.
assaulting children.
What's
But
his name?
again,
Oh,
he's,
isn't that Johnny Gat, right? Master
yeah,
Ozai?
Fire Lord Ozai.
Yeah,
But
Ozai.
they're trying to make him like sympathetic and, oh, I love my son. No, he absolutely hated
Enemy
Zuko. Because that
deserves
was
no
the difference.
mercy.
That was, oh, that was the difference between Zuko and Azula in the show. Zuko kind of had a kind heart, which was more like his mother. Azula was just like her father, absolutely cruel and just pure of hatred and malice. That was like the dynamic between the two, like who was more like their mother and who was more like their father. But in the show, why nuance? Why any of that stuff?
Hmm.
Well, they did touch on it, Craig. He had that throwaway line, "You're soft just like your mother," and that was it.
But in the show, we saw his mother, and we don't see her here. We'll probably never see her.
So, okay, so explain to me this comet thing. Does it come every X amount of years? How does that work?
I think it comes every 100 years now. I'm
Okay.
gonna do it first and send you guys a clip of what the firebenders look like with the
We can't even
comet.
show that.
We can't show, but I can show it to you.
Okay.
Because again, we saw in the show, you didn't realize at the beginning that they were even
Oh,
powered up.
what made me chuckle too was I think it was the end of episode 7. Did in this show did they have that like hilariously ridiculous amount of like our especially in Armada when in the ocean when they're about to attack the northern water tribe? Did they have like
Mm.
that many ships?
They did.
Okay. It felt comical.
Well, I think in the show not they were a lot of ships because they wanted to finally take out the Northern Water Tribe, but I don't know if they had, all the CGI ships copy and pasted in the ocean.
Oh.
Probably a lot less.
Oh, and also, did they was it always like a misdirection where they're like, "Oh, we didn't want that. We wanted to like get Aang's friend." Like it was essentially a diversion. Was that like in the show too?
What was the diversion?
Where they said like, "Oh, we knew it was a losing battle going up to the
They
north. We
got
wanted to get
they got the
Aang's
Earth
friend."
Kingdom. They
Yeah.
got the Earth Kingdom. They took the city.
No, that was not a diversion. Their entire intention was to capture the North.
Well, that's
And
lame.
it was Zhao, because again, the big difference between the show and this show, Zhao was not like some no-name incompetent person in the Netflix show. He was a commander, then admiral. Like that requires some
Mute this.
skill.
Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, I sent you the video, but it requires some skill to get. And we'll see this in season 2 maybe, but Zhao went to this ancient library where he found the identity of the water spirit. That's why he knew which spirit to identify to kill it, to take out the waterbender's waterbending ability. So like he's well traveled, he was, smart, he was able to get this stuff. But in the show, like, oh, Azula sent him everything.
Another link, Craig? What is this?
Look at the second one, because you'll see the Fire Lord's firebending ability.
You're spoiling it for me.
Well, you want to see how powerful they were under Sozin's Comet.
I was just curious. I wonder why they like in the show they're like, yeah, we knew we were gonna lose that anyway. That wasn't our real objective. I wonder why they did that. It was kind of silly.
It's very stupid, and part of the thing too is that the Kingdom of Mashu, they did get captured in the show, but King Boomy just didn't fight back. He just gave up and surrendered. He never put up a fight. So
What
it
a
wasn't like this
chump.
battle that they eventually end up winning. He was playing 4D chess and just gave up entirely.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess they're trying to make him like smarter than they really are. I
I
don't know.
really have no
It's
idea.
kind of dumb where it's like, yeah, they're doing 40 chess and they're like, oh yeah, we knew we were gonna lose that anyway, even though we sent our whole armada out up there.
We sent our entire navy. We lost everybody.
Yeah, literally everyone died.
And that's what too. Like it would have served better in that final scene, like where his advisor was like, "Oh, Zuko was there," and like it would have been better if the king was just like, whatever." But, like you see him hesitate, and then he tries to mask it with like, sometimes you have to, sacrifice the weak. It's like, it would have just been better if he just didn't even address the comment.
Okay, so one thing with the Great Sage, Daniel, I don't know if you noticed this, but the guy who played the Great Sage, did you know that he voiced the main character in Godzilla 2000 in the dub? To me,
Really?
his voice is so like I remember his voice from the movie. I'm like, I know he sounds familiar, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, yep, Colin was right. He dubbed him in. He's Yuji Shinoda, Godzilla 2000, the main guy.
Really?
Yeah, pretty cool.
I guess
If
there
you
is one
watch that again, if
redeeming.
you rewatch that movie, you'll definitely hear the Great Sage's voice.
All right, there's one redeeming quality about this show then.
Yeah. Anyway, so trying to think of
Did you see the
other.
video I sent?
I was kind of watching because I had to mute it. There are, I
Well,
mean, I think it also in this show too. It seems again, it's like what you can do in animation is a lot different than what you can do with live action. Because I know the fights in the show are like crazy. Like I know that much. And in this one in the
Yeah.
show, it's kind of tame.
well, that's what I like talked about in the first part, where at least I was hoping at least could we have good fight scenes, and of course we don't get that. Like, give us something to rewatch because you're not going to rewatch this show. You're going to rewatch the original show. There's no reason to ever come back and watch this. But maybe if there was cool, fight scenes and all that stuff, you could at least, well, maybe I could rewatch the fight scene every now and then.
No,
And
I did with that spirit episode. Was the
Spirited Away.
backstories on um Sokka and Katara, were they accurate? Like what happened with them?
For Sokka, not really. I mean, no one ever said Sokka. You were like, no, Sokka wasn't really a great warrior, but no one was like disappointed with him in that sense. So Sokka's whole thing was he wanted to join his father to go fight the Fire Nation, go off to war, but he was left in charge of the village, which he thought was a disappointment. But he was, put in charge of the village. He was the oldest male still left. And Katara's, it was mostly similar, but her, so they came to invade the Southern Water Tribe, the Fire Nation. They ended up going into Katara's mother's house, or wherever she was, and they said, "We are looking for the last waterbender. We're not going to leave until we find her." And she just sacrificed herself, knowing that if they found, they don't want to, have her daughter get killed. So she just kind of sacrificed herself. Well, in the Netflix show, Katara tried to waterbend, which ended up getting her mother caught and killed, which I don't really like that change because then it makes it seem like it's her fault. While when she was young, it was just, there's nothing you could do. I feel like
If
that's more
she's a
tragic.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could have her, wanting to learn how to bend and do something because she didn't do it when she was younger.
Yeah, to kind of, make up for not being able to protect her mother, which is probably the reason why she wanted to go to the Northern Water Tribe, but to learn waterbending, but yeah, we can't have that.
Huh. That's very interesting.
But how the show is much, how the cartoon's much better than the live action.
I mean, I feel like even that kind of backstory, like, how could you mess that up? I'm curious what their justification was, especially for Katara. I feel like it completely changes her character dynamic because of what they did for the show versus the original one. Because, yeah,
Well,
whatever they did in the original one was so much better.
but also too, because Katara's mother was killed and not many, she became like the mother of their family, so she was a lot more caring and took on, just like Sokka, took on a bigger role taking care of the village, which you don't really see in either one of them. Maybe more so Sokka because he takes his role as village elder pretty seriously. But Katara, you wouldn't even know she was like the mother of the group or the more caring one that kind of looked after everybody. Because again, in the show, she was also the healer, so she would heal people.
Ah.
But we can't have her learn how to heal.
I think it was the end of episode 6 where Aang just starts barking. He's like, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, with like him realizing what his destiny is, or like at least his responsibility of being an avatar. And we talked about in the last episode that he was just more, he wanted to be a kid and he wanted to brush it aside. Because it was just
Yeah.
like so weird. I forget what the context was. And then all of a sudden he just like, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. It's all my fault. I gotta do this, I gotta do this. It's like, all right, calm
Was
down.
that
It goes
was that
episode
after
6.
was
That
that
was the
after with
masks
like
one.
yeah with Ko?
I was with Ko and Zuko had the blue mask.
Yeah. Did that blue mask
I think
when
that
he
happened
did
in the
that
show.
that did happen?
It did happen.
Okay, Craig, let me ask you this. Because this is like turning into us just asking questions about the differences. Which episode of the 8 is the most faithful to the show? So, like, let's say if episode 1 of this Netflix show is episode 1 through 3 in the original series, like, like, which is the most accurate show or accurate episode,
Honestly,
if there is one?
I mean, none of them are really great, but I feel like if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with the first one.
Really? Even when they're showing Aang, like, out of. Well, I'm assuming in the show it was told out of order, as you said, because does this start with Katara and Sokka finding Aang?
I mean,
I can't remember.
it's a toss up between maybe the first one and the last one.
Oh, wow. They just have, like, a whole giant middle of just unfaithfulness.
I'd probably lean more towards the first one because while everything is told out of order, it makes the storytelling worse. Most of that stuff did at least happen.
Ah, okay.
Well, everything else, they're just making stuff up as they go along. Or just like jam-packing episodes together don't really fit, like, missing like puzzle pieces that don't go together.
So now I'm curious, what did they remove from season 1 of the show to this? Like broad things. Obviously, there's probably minor differences, but like plot
Well,
lines that just didn't happen.
so I'm looking at the episodes. There was one episode where they held some Earthbenders were imprisoned in a Fire Nation uh, POW camp, and they kind of freed these people. That was an episode they missed. Um, there was a waterbending scroll after Aang visited Roku, knowing that he had to master all fire elements. Aang said, "Okay, now I have to learn waterbending. Katara, could you teach me waterbending?" But Katara didn't know much, so they stole a waterbending scroll to kind of for both of them to get better. There was a
Ah.
filler episode called The Great Divide. Not that important. There was a whole episode dedicated to the backstories of Aang and Zuko, which we learned through other episodes, but it was kind of to show that both of them have a similar-ish backstory.
Well, the show made that a point where they're just like talking about each other on that boat, and they're like starting to get along, and then Aang mentions about like him being kind of compassionate, and then he just spurgs out of control.
So it sort of happened in the show. It was much quicker. Aang said, I used to have a friend in the Fire Nation. Maybe we go back to the way it was before. Then Zuko just tried to attack him.
Hmm.
Well, no, that his cover was blown. There's an episode dedicated called "The Fortune Teller," more to Aang and Katara's like love story developments. They're kind
Yeah,
of
there
going
was
for.
nothing like that in the series. No little breadcrumbs that there is a possible romance. I mean,
Which
maybe
I
it's
find very
it's
odd.
yeah, maybe it's different for this because they're all kids. I don't know. I know it happened in the show, but
But it wasn't like, they're doing anything, graphic.
oh,
At
I
the end
know,
of
but
the series,
still.
they just became a couple.
Yeah, it wasn't like Stephen King's It.
Oh God.
So it's like, I don't know, you can have them kiss. I don't think your intimacy coordinator is going to have a problem with that. And there's one episode where
Yeah.
called Botso where they found one of their father's like chief, I don't know, military people. They found him injured. They healed him. The whole episode was Aang was being a little selfish because he didn't want Katara and Sokka to go with their father. He wanted them to stay with them. And then they stay with him, but showing that Aang may be a little selfish, trying to keep his friends from leaving. There was one episode
Because
where Aang learned firebending.
that I think that for me was like the biggest shock in the season that he didn't do any other bending, like except at the end. He took on the spirit.
That doesn't
But
even
like,
count because that wasn't him in
yeah,
control.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
that's a good
Well,
point. He did just airbending the whole show.
yeah, he didn't like there was no growth for him
How's he
like
supposed to
in
be an
terms of
avatar if he just does airbending?
Well, people were saying
like
they're gonna have all the development off screen because why bother showing? Because you don't have time to show him training.
Lazy.
Oh, of course it's lazy.
you don't have to dedicate an episode to it like
You
the
do it
cartoon,
throughout
but
the episodes.
yeah, you just do little montages as they're
Well, not even
as
like a
they're
montage. Maybe there's like a little sequence where you can learn more about this ability, and then
yeah,
throughout the episode, it just progresses and progresses
yeah.
more.
Well, like throughout the
Well,
show, they obviously would show it through fight scenes, or they would show like Aang and Katara doing waterbending together to show that they know he's maybe not on her level, but he's like be able
yeah.
to do stuff with her where they can do make a more powerful attack together.
Yeah, like as they're traveling, like there's like a little filler spot where you see them by like a river, just like practicing, or he's teaching her. I don't know, like it just none of that. The
Speaking of
only thing that
traveling, I was going to say, Daniel, finish your point, then I'll go to my little
I
point.
was just gonna say, all you saw was like into to Craig's point of like the fight scenes. All you ever saw him do was just like he just pushed like a group of people away or just swat fire away. Like that was it.
I was going to say, speaking of traveling, whenever they're on Appa, the green screen effect is rough. It looks pretty bad.
Oh
I,
no, I agree
I,
100%. Well, that's the thing too. I think most of the CGI looks pretty bad.
I don't know.
yeah, I'll give like a pass to some of the stuff, but boy, like whenever they're
No,
on Appa, it just looks miserable. It looks so
no,
bad.
there was one. Speaking of bad effects, I don't know if anyone else caught this, but when June shows up on that like the mole bear or that whatever that thing was she was riding, did anyone else notice when she jumped off of it, like it was sped up? Like it was a horrible effect that they couldn't even just have it look like her. She just came off of a horse, like naturally, no effect.
I
Did
did not
did
notice
that
that.
bug
I can't say I was giving this my full attention.
some fan you are?
He's not a fan of this one.
What?
Well, I'm the anointed expert, so I have to tell you all the differences.
Was she bigger in the show than
No,
essentially she was
she
getting like
appeared
a
in one
glorify?
episode, and it was basically what she
Okay,
did in the show. But
okay,
again, so Aang traveled halfway across the world somehow on his glider to go to that Fire Nation temple. When she tracked him, she was going maybe, a few dozen miles, maybe at most, maybe 20 to track Aang. She didn't travel halfway across the world on her little thing across the ocean to find him and then bring him back.
Yeah, that was silly.
You mentioned the fight scenes, and I think one of the better ones, sort of, was the Katara's fight versus Paku because it actually copied some of the stuff from the show, but it also looked pretty bad. And I
That's
think
the
that's
whole
probably,
show.
well, besides that, I think that's probably why they didn't invest too much into the action. Mainly because they have so much story to tell, but also, if once you have characters like moving around too high into the air and like they move too fast, I think it's hard for the special effects to keep up and make them look any
Well,
worse.
yeah, they'll look like Gumby essentially if they're like jumping in the air real fast, like you know how like in the first Spider-Man movie when Peter's on top of the roof and he's jumping, it looks plasticky. It'd probably look like that, honestly, if they're like doing all these crazy moves that would work better for a cartoon.
Yeah, but which again leads to the question, why bother adapting it?
yeah, it's like the main selling point. Cool fight scenes with elements.
Well, because they were so proud of the fact that every bending style had their own martial arts style. Like you can see the difference between like earth bending and air bending.
Not in this show.
Well, obviously, but that was the appeal of the show because I think I mentioned this last episode where they had some guy do all the martial arts. They would like almost rotoscope him so they could get all the moves accurate and make it look like different martial art styles. Because that was the appeal. Like it was, part of the appeal was the action.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
Craig,
this show has any of that appeal at all.
yeah. Craig, who do you think was the worst adapted character?
Ooh, I mean, Aang's pretty bad. So is Katara. Zuko at least had some of that teen angst that he kind of had. Iroh doesn't talk like a human being in the show.
I think Sokka's supposed to be funnier.
He is.
He's like more serious in this one. He looks like he's just like about to like smack Katara.
Zhao, I think, was probably one of the better ones, even though he was a little more incompetent. He at least kind of had that arrogance and backstabbingness that the original kind of had, even though he was just a puppet for Azula. Um, Ozai, they tried to make him too sympathetic, which was stupid.
But Appa, how's Appa?
He's barely in the show. Like, Aang had two pets that they're barely in the show. You only see Appa for the horrible green screen shots. The other one, Momo, the wing-tailed lemur, which,
Did that happen in the last episode too, or like they tried to fake you out with the death?
no.
Oh, okay. It's
But
lame.
I think they put it in there
Yeah.
because you probably forgot he existed.
It was just like a bad thing. Like, even though I'm not an avid fan, like, I know, like, they're not going to kill off
Oh yeah,
Momo.
that'd be like massive outrage if they did that.
The worst one. I mean, it's probably between like Aang and Kantara. More so
Oh
because
man.
of the acting doesn't help either. Because they
Yeah,
turned
Aang is
Aang and
pretty flat. His delivery is pretty flat.
because Aang's supposed to be more
And
of
also,
this carefree kid, and they make him almost too serious, and he can't act.
and at times, like, the way he delivered his lines, like, when he's trying to be serious, it almost sounds like he's asking a question.
Yeah.
He's inquisitive, Daniel. They're confusing inquisitive with serious.
Is that so wrong?
Seriously.
So Craig, you've seen some of the Shyamalan one, right? Who's a worse
Yes.
Aang? The Shyamalan one or this?
Honestly, they're very similar.
Oh man.
Oh,
Like that, because people want to sit there and trash Shyamalan one, which fair enough. But this isn't much better. Like I will die in this hill. It's not much better. The only benefit it gets maybe, well, I don't know, maybe the Shyamalan's shorter, so at least you don't have to suffer as long as opposed to 8 hours.
Yeah, one episode is probably almost as long as the Shyamalan one. Let's look up the runtime.
It was really short. It was
I got it. Let me look it up. 2010 film. Yep. Wait, what is this?
like the only real big positive this show has. At least it looks like the world it's supposed to adapt. But besides that, I mean, it's nowhere close to accurate.
103 minutes. So that's
So
not too bad.
probably an hour and a half with actual runtime.
I just can't believe that. Like Aang is just so bad. The
Cause I
main
see,
character.
yeah, which is why it's easier to have kids voice act versus actually
Well, they
act.
don't even really have kids for. Did they have a kid for the original show?
They did. Most of them were young. Like they had Ayan from Arrested Development voice Katara.
her?
Her. But she was young, maybe she was obviously older than the character, but it wasn't like she was much older.
Ah, interesting.
Because I think was the girl who played Toph. I know she's on the show, but I think she was almost the exact same age as her character. So again, that's why it's very odd when they have to physically act. They can't. Plus, it doesn't help that they're surrounded by green screens.
I'm just looking at photos of the Shyamalan one, and I'm sickened but curious.
I don't know. You're interested into it now?
I've never seen it, so I'm kind of curious in watching it.
But see, the thing is, the Aang they casted in the Shyamalan one,
But he could do kung fu and stuff, right?
he had absolutely no acting experience. But they said, "Well, you're pretty good at karate and all that stuff, so maybe we should cast you instead."
And you know what, Craig? It paid off.
I don't know. They casted the kid who's supposed to be an actor. He's not doing much better, so maybe you should cast the kung fu guy.
Yeah, I mean, ugh. I'm just looking at these photos. It looks so bad.
Oh yeah, it was they're trying to pay respects by making more quote unquote accurate, but it just makes it look weirder.
Well, Sokka looks like a grown man, and Katara looks like a child.
Yeah, isn't Sokka supposed to be like 16?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Asaka and Zuko are supposed to be 16. Katara
Aang is
and
12,
Azula.
technically 112.
Yeah, Katara and Azula are 14, then Aang's 12.
Like, you just have these two children with this grown man.
Well, I think that goes to our point before in the last episode where it is supposed to be more adult. Why don't you age up the characters? I mean, this is really not a big deal from Sokka going from maybe 16 to 19. It's still he's
He's
still
19. He
young.
looks 25. He looks like a
No,
man.
but I mean the Netflix show.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like aging up the characters a bit so at least they seem you get more you can get better access to older characters so they can act better.
I mean, Zuko looks horrible in the Shyamalan one.
You barely even know he has a scar.
I mean, this one's not that much better though because it looks like makeup. Like I like the TV show where, yeah, the one in the Shyamalan was embarrassing. Didn't I say like looks like he got stung by a bee? Like the skin is raised. I think I said that.
Look like like the Netflix one looks like he has a rash on his face.
I don't think like again, it's probably like, well, we don't want to apply this every day. This kid's on set, but it literally looks like a Viking tribe where he just like smeared blood on his eye to look intimidating.
I
In the,
know
in
it's
the Netflix, in the Netflix.
with the Shyamalan one. I don't know why they changed the arrow on Aang's head.
It's supposed to be more accurate.
Well, Zuko has hair in the 2010 one.
Because I'm pretty sure him shaving his head was like some, I don't know, probably for his honor. Like you're banished, so he shaved his head or something.
But how is the Aang? How is the M Night Shyamalan like tattoo on Aang supposed to be more accurate? Like the cartoon, it's just a blue arrow.
Well, I think
There's no
more accurate to
design
the
to it.
culture.
It's not about being accurate to the culture. It's about being accurate to the source material.
I
Can you
think that
imagine
was his
that kid
justification.
putting that on his head every day? It must have been annoying.
Because also, I know you never seen the movie, but his name is obviously Aang in the show, but Shyamalan said, well, his name's Ong.
His
Because
name's Ang Shyamalan.
yeah, Ong.
Oh, Shyamalan.
Really, that's the twist. It's really M Night. He's the last Airbender.
He's the last filmmaker. Yeah, let's go back to the Netflix one. I don't want to keep looking at these horrible photos. No, they're definitely going to be doing a season two. I think I mentioned maybe something in season two and season three. So, what changes do you think you can see already happening because of the dumb choices they made in this season?
It's hard to say because like I feel like season two had probably less filler, so there's gonna be so much they're gonna jam packed together. So what could they possibly cut out? I mean, let me pull up the episode list.
Well, you mentioned also like, well, they're definitely going to be cramming in season two the love, not like Katara and Aang, like them developing as a thing. At least I'd imagine so because as you're saying, there was those breadcrumbs in season one of the original show. There's nothing like that in this one.
Oh yeah, I mean, but the thing is, so at the end of the second season, there's like hints. Katara and Zuko got put in prison together, and Zuko and Katara saying maybe I could heal your scar. So people are saying, oh, maybe that's the hint of their relationship, which I imagine they'll include in the Netflix show, which will be very weird because okay, she has like maybe a quote unquote romantic scene with Zuko or sympathizing with them, but absolutely zero with Aang, the one she ends up with.
Yeah, they probably do something like that. Seems like the Netflix thing to do.
I know they'll probably try to adapt this one episode. It's called Tales of Ba Sing Se. I think they won an award for the show or won an award for the
Wow,
episode.
they're gonna do it real justice. I can guarantee
Well,
you, Craig.
I don't think they'll be able to adapt it though because it was obviously a 22-minute episode, but it followed all of our main characters throughout the city in like 3 minute little mini stories. And I think one of the last ones was the voice actor for Iroh died right after season two ended. So they kind of dedicated that episode to him. And it's very kind of sad. He basically finally buries his son.
Oh my God.
Yeah, very emotional, which I don't think they'll probably be able to do. They'll probably try to show him burying his son because it's the only thing people remember from that episode. But there's no way they can adapt that whole episode, which I
Well,
think won an award.
joke's on you, Craig. They're going to make a whole season out of it. They're going to flip the script.
I was also gonna say too
It didn't win an award, my bad.
for
But it's
Legends, the last episode, the fish girl, whatever her name is, Azusa. No, not Azula. Who's the other one? The one who becomes a
Yue?
fish.
You mean the girl with the white hair, Yue?
Yeah, her wig was terrible.
People were saying the Shyamalan one was better.
Really?
Yeah, look at it.
Oh, I couldn't believe. I'm like, that is the most obvious wig of all time. What's her name? Uh,
Yue, Yue.
oh, okay. I mean, he looks a little better, yeah.
Looks a little better.
Looks like actual hair. Yeah, look, compare the. Oh my God, the difference is crazy.
It's kind of sad when even the Shyamalan one is up doing a better job. Like I thought Hollywood found the master wigs. I mean, how is it so difficult to get a good wig these days?
All their budget went to those digital effects, Craig, with the green screen, and it shows.
Does it though? 'Cause they look terrible. Like, where did the budget go?
Colin, that was the same girl that played the main character in Prey.
No, it's not. Is it?
How
Is
did you
it?
not? How
It
did you
is.
not know?
How do I? What's your UA? UA?
Yeah, Yue.
Oh yeah, it is. Okay, I was clicking on the wrong person's name on
I was looking at
Wikipedia.
M. Night, I was looking at M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, what a horrible, 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 horrible wig. It is so bad. Because that's what I was thinking the whole time when I was watching it. I was like, oh my God. Did they even try? Did they just go to the Halloween store and just pick it up?
Honestly, if you tell me that, I think that'd be more believable than saying we had our best people working on this and this is the best they came up with because I know they could do better.
Yeah, that's just embarrassing. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, even as a watermark.
Also, I wanted to mention because we're gonna go look ahead at season two. There's like Appa's missing from like half the season. He gets stolen from Aang, and it was very emotional because he was with them the whole time. It was Aang's only connection to his past. They have no connection in the first season. Like you almost forget Appa's there.
Yeah, Appa only essentially appears at the end of each episode to take him somewhere.
So when he gets taken from Aang, everyone's been like, "Oh, well, that was sad in the show, but it's not really sad here because we kind of forgot he existed."
Well, I'm gonna be bold, Craig. And I think they're gonna skip that episode, or at least maybe skip
It's a
that
huge
situation.
plot point.
Oh, well, they clearly ignored big plot points in this one, Craig. What makes you think they're gonna stop there?
That is
Because doesn't
true.
also
He was gone for almost half the season, so
didn't also Appa help out in fight scenes too?
every now and then.
Yeah, Appa's
Like that would have
cool.
been that would have been cool to see it, just the flying Dyson come in and just like take out a few
Yeah, can you imagine
people.
he like T-bones one of those like Fire Nation like battleships, completely rams it over?
Well, he was strong, and like what he would usually do to attack, he would just turn around, like flick his tail, and people go flying across the screen.
I don't want to see
Just
that.
like
Like, I just want to see Appa be
yeah,
violent.
just like a dive bomber. Just
You hear like the airplane.
He breaks like the sound barrier.
just see like Momo go nuts and just scratch some guy's eyes out.
They do want to appeal to the Game of Thrones audience. They could do that. People like the flying dragons. Who wouldn't like a
I think
flying
they
bison?
Well, Craig, I think they appealed to the Game of Thrones audience by sending the brother and sister through the Lover's Tunnel.
That is also true.
It looks like Appa looks better in the Shyamalan one than this.
Oh no, don't say that.
I gotta see like I need like a versus photo where
Oh, like those like compilation videos where they break down everything.
or like at least a photo where it's like this is the 2010 one and this is the Netflix one. Let me see if I
I
can look it
think I
up real
saw a
quick.
video about that, but I didn't really care to click on it.
Look it up real quick. I'm curious.
That
Yeah.
that was such a big tease. I feel like from the trailer, like obviously I can imagine when they first showed Appa for the live act for the show, like fans probably went nuts.
I mean, I didn't. But then again, I didn't have much hope. Now, here's a complaint I saw online, which I feel like is the least of the show's problems. People were talking about how everyone's clothes and everyone looks too clean. It looks like almost cosplay with what they're wearing,
Mm-hmm.
which I kind of agree with it, but I feel like it's the least of the show's problems.
Oh yeah, that's like a little minor thing.
It's like, yeah, yeah, maybe if Katara and Sokka's outfits had a little more wear and tear, that look better, like, Lord of the Rings. But
Well, yeah, you
again,
don't want their like faces drenched in blood and like they're bleeding everywhere. But yeah, have like maybe little like fire singes on their, especially like Katara if she was going up against a firebender. I have some of her clothes like a little charred.
or maybe have like, stitch marks where she
Yeah.
like it got cut and she re-sewed it or something. Again, I feel like this is more of a minor thing. People were making a big deal about it. Like it looks like a cosplay, which I do agree with, but with how bad the show is, this is problem like 100 on the list of 100 problems. Like this is more where you want your show to be that take that extra step to be good and memorable, where you add those details, not the first thing you think of.
Hmm. Yeah, that's their least of their issue. I mean, it's not as offensive as Black Widow. Did you guys ever see that where in that movie Scarlett Johansson breaks her nose and then like her face looks perfectly fine.
All right, so didn't she like reset it herself?
Yeah, yeah, and she's like, "There's no blood anywhere," and obviously I'm not expecting like a blood fest or a bloodbath, but like, yeah, she looks perfectly fine. She survived an explosion. She went through like sky debris. She looks perfectly fine.
Well, of course, she's stunning and powerful.
Well, it's gonna. I hate when movies do that though. Like a character goes through all these giant battles and they just look like they walked out of their trailer.
Well,
They
like
look
you
so
mentioned at
clean.
the end of the show, the last episode, they're all like giggling and laughing as
Oh
the
yeah, that
the water
that
tribe to survive like a horrendous assault on their people.
yeah. Literally, so much blood was shed that day, and they're just laughing like, "Oh, let's go get something to eat." Oh, I could have melons because they said
Yeah,
Sokka said
melon
Aang
head.
has a
Next to
melon
walking by
head.
dead bodies,
Yeah.
have to step over some guy's
Was it
body. Like
Katara that put the cloth over that dead guy, or was that Sokka? Who did that?
probably guitar, right? Or I don't
Yeah,
remember.
that one guy she was talking to who ends up dying. She puts a cloth over him, over his
More
dying
food for me.
face. Yeah, and then they're talking about melons and wanting to eat. It's like, guys, come on, like,
Yeah, this is the now they want to act like kids.
yeah. Now Aang is being goofy, and now Sokka is. Are they goofy when there's like death around them?
No, of course not.
No, I'm kidding. Talk about in the show.
I know. Of course not.
All right, Craig. Who was the best adapted character?
Oof.
Papa.
Momo.
I mean, if I had to pick a person, I might go with Zhao. Because everyone seems to think Iroh is perfectly adapted. I did not like this version of Iroh because he wouldn't talk like a human being at all. Every piece of dialogue
You
was
really
so
hated that guy.
he wouldn't talk like a normal human being. Like Iroh wasn't this, cookie cutter dispenser where he's giving you like sage wisdom through a cookie or a fortune
Every
cookie.
line- Yeah, I was just gonna say every line sounded like they hired some guy to keep opening fortune cookies and they're writing those lines down.
Because Iroh gave advice, but people asked him for advice. He talked like a normal person throughout the
Yeah,
show.
he's talking in like I'm gonna coin this term like puzzle talk or puzzle tongue,
Yeah.
where it's just like cryptid for no reason. He's like
Because
giving non-answers essentially.
people who, they're like, oh, Iroh always gave great advice, which he did, but
Not
He
this
appeared
one.
in. Well, besides that, he
He
also
still was
talked
a
like a
normal
normal.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, he would say things like, "Oh, I'm hungry," or "I don't," or he'd make jokes and stuff. He wasn't always just, fortune cookie dispenser.
Sometimes to go backwards, you must go forwards, Zoku.
Or
Catching
he
the
driving
avatar so
cars.
yeah. Catching the avatar is so frustrating. Frustration is like the wind. Like it's
Because in the show, he would say, "Prince Zuko, you must have patience. We will find him. Just patience." Like normal advice, not reading from
yeah,
a fortune cookie.
like a normal
Prince
counselor.
Zuko, being burned by your father is like being burned by nature. You're like, what? What are you talking about?
It just annoyed me because he wouldn't act like a normal person. Because it's like, oh, this is what he's famous for. Yeah.
And then there was the only other time he wasn't giving, sage wisdom was, that it was like, oh, I was distracted by the barbecue. Like he was always distracted by food.
Which it
To
kind of did that
fire
throughout the
bend, you
show,
must
but
bend fire.
again, he wasn't just, a one-note character. That's why he's everyone's favorite. He was, very personal. He was funny. He had great advice.
Handsome.
Yes.
That was so weird when June was like, "Because your dad's cute," and then she's like, "I'll help you because." They tried to pay her, and she's like, "No, you're so cute." I was like, "What?"
Was that in the show, Craig?
Yeah, but she made one rem
What was
Sorry, I was choking.
it?
It's okay, I'm not dying yet.
Oh my god. Alright. Yeah, you said that they did that once in the show?
She made
Like
like
as a
one
throwaway
off.
line,
They
probably,
just
and
made
she
like
was
one
being
offhand remark.
joking. Yeah.
Yeah, but they repeated like 3 times.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
But the funny thing was he had the crush on her and not the other way around.
Well, that's like any kind of, I feel like adaptation. They just like take, or should I say bad adaptations? They take like one thing and they just like go to the extreme.
Yeah, it made more
Like a
sense
little
not to
little
include
a
it.
gag, I guess you could say in the original show is, oh, she thinks he's cute. She keeps saying it.
But part of what people liked about Iroh was that he was very charming. He could talk to people and like kind of sucker them to do what he wanted to do. Because he did that a few times throughout the show. He was, he would try to compliment them, he'd work them over while Zuko was like, "Come on, just get what we want." It's like, no, 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 you gotta let me work my charm.
Gotta massage the shoulders.
Oh yeah, he knew how to talk to people and kind of get what he wants.
They definitely wasn't giving non-answers to these people.
Yeah, I'd be so annoyed talking to him. Like, just give me one straight answer. I don't need to read everything for like a fortune cookie that you're telling me.
But not all answers are straight. Sometimes they are parallel.
Sometimes they're perpendicular.
Yeah, he's probably the worst character.
Iroh?
Yeah, in the show, the Netflix one.
Well, I said Aang, so you said that Iroh's the worst?
Yeah, is he's the guy that can't speak properly.
Yeah.
I think Aang is pretty egregious too because he's the main character and he is literally nothing like his TV show counterpart. It is like the
Yes.
polar opposite.
I think the most like jarring for me was Boomy because like it was just
Who?
a
The horrible the makeup?
yes,
Wait,
yes.
who?
King
Boomy, his
Boomy?
friend,
Oh,
his
God.
friend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just because it was like understand what they're trying to do, but the execution was so bad. Because from a cartoon, obviously, he's gonna look cartoonish, he's jumping around, but then this, it just looked the makeup. He's
Disturbing.
like he kept licking his lips. I'm like, is he gonna eat Aang? Like what? It was so jarring. But obviously, he was only in the
He's
one
in two
episode.
episodes. Well, like, okay, he
Two
was in one
episodes.
episode and then there's like an asterisk next to that because he was
Yeah,
at the end of the last one.
yeah. But in terms of like the main cast,
I don't know, he was. Yeah, complete change to his character is terrible. Well, I thought we were
I,
talking like main characters, like the ones that appear
yeah,
most
I
in the
mean,
show.
I'd probably say Aang because the kid was just so flat. Like I said, like he's like asking questions when he's trying to be like serious. Like it just comes off like that. Like he's confused almost what he's reading off the script.
We're probably confused because he's surrounded by a bunch of green screens. He was like, "What am I supposed to do? Like, I'm a kid. I'm not a professional
What am I
actor.
supposed to
What?"
look at? They're just a
Yeah,
bunch of like X's on the screen.
And that's what I said before. Like I can't tell if it's like the kid just is not a good actor or he just really was the direction. Like the directing was just
It's probably like a nice mix of
it's a
everything just
combination.
being terrible.
It's a perfect storm.
Yeah.
it's the perfect storm.
Because the kid's like, what am I supposed to look at? There's no reference point. Because sometimes what they do is they'd have like a tennis ball on like a rod, and then be like, oh, it's right here. You look at this tennis ball.
Look, it's Appa. It's your big fluffy
It's
bison.
Appa. He's probably just. It's probably like Ian McKellen having a mental breakdown on the set of The Hobbit because everything was just a green screen and he was all alone.
At least you can say he's a professional actor. He can kind of suck it up and get along.
Yeah,
He's also an old man.
Well, the
But
kid, it's like, what is he supposed to do? He's
maybe the
never
kid was
acted
like
before.
regretting his choice and he's like, oh man, I'm signed up for 2 more seasons. You gotta be kidding me.
Like, this is gonna ruin my career. I'm never gonna get a job again.
Yeah, I don't like the show, Craig.
but if I had to pick like a best character, I
Besides the
might be
animals.
I might pick
I might
Sokka. He's like best of the worst.
I picked Zhao because he seemed like he was actually playing almost a character, kind of acting.
Well, I think in terms of acting, I think Sokka was probably better than the most. Because again, it's like most of them are children. So,
Oh yeah, the children I think he was
well, he's also
acting the
like a
best.
man. So I'd hope he'd be better than a bunch of children.
I don't know. It might be between Sokka and Zuko.
How do I? Where? What episode? Oh, wait. I'm trying to click on the whole thingy.
The what?
I'm trying to see how old Sokka is, the actor.
The kid, he's probably like 20. Like he's probably early 20s. Definitely doesn't look like he's 16.
He's
But
21.
He's 21. Okay. I can't believe it
how
took me
old's
that long to
Zuko?
do it. Zuko is 22. Oh my God, he's older? He's 22. That's crazy. Yeah, Johnny Gat is 55. Nice. And the kid who plays Aang doesn't say how old he is, but he's probably like 13, maybe 12.
Katara
Katara
is
is
And
17.
17.
I
Wow.
I
Uh,
mean, the Fire Lord, Johnny Gat didn't do a bad job. It was just the way that they wrote his
the guy
character,
who
like
plays
having some
King Boomy
confliction.
is 40 years old. Nice.
I
Well,
don't know why
obviously,
they
he's,
did.
he's, he's not an old man.
Imagine he's like a child in all that makeup.
I
It
don't
looks
know
so
why they didn't
weird.
just. I don't know why they just didn't get an older actor. It's just naturally looks like that. Why do you do that makeup?
Well,
I
do you
don't
know any
care.
100-year-old men running around, Daniel, that are actors?
You don't have to. He
Maybe
doesn't have to
Bill
be 100.
Shatner would be close, but that'd be controversial, I guess.
Dang, what are you doing here?
Aang? What does the Avatar need a starship for?
What does the Avatar need to learn earthbending for?
The Fire Nation's attacking. Fire.
You imagine like they're like showing off their fire skills in front of him. Fire.
I would have enjoyed that so much if you just saw just 95-year-old Shatner dressed
93.
up like that, just acting all, just being himself.
Nothing mattered with him over this show. Like just watching Shatner just be himself for 8 hours, I think it'd be more entertaining than this whole
But
show.
Imagine like his wig is on like halfway too. He just looks confused, like he just rolled out of bed.
See, what we should do is we should get William Shatner and get George Takei, just put them in a room together and just have them bicker
Oh
for
my
hours, for
God.
8 hours. That would be more entertaining than this show.
I
Watch
mean,
these two
you can
egomaniacs
have
go at it.
you could have George Takei as the Fire Lord, and then he'd really just channel that
Could you
hatred.
imagine if Bill Shatner was Aang?
Just 93-year-old man to be a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah,
I
and Ozai is
learned waterbending to save the
Ozai is
world.
or Takei is the Ozai, the Fire Lord.
We need to find the last avatar.
Bill always keeps taking roles from me.
What does the Fire Nation need with an avatar? He keeps calling Sokka Mr. Spock.
Mr. Sokka, is Appa ready?
Yeah, so anyway, let's get back to the show.
No, I want to live in a world where William Shatner is playing a 12-year-old boy.
It'd be funny. It's like the same size clothes for the kid, but just on William Shatner, so it's so tight. It's like his guts hanging out.
Well, instead of like having him take his wig off, they just paint the arrow on his wig. It goes to his forehead.
He looked like Doctor Evil with like a bald cat. Somehow joking around, we came up with a better live action avatar.
Or who's the guy who plays Dr. Evil?
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers.
I haven't played every character in Avatar.
Oh my God, it'd be horrible.
God.
That's a terrible impersonation. He even plays the
General,
female characters.
General Iho, it's not General Iho, it's just Fat Bastard.
All right. Anyway,
We got great ideas. It's better than adapting this trash.
Craig, I know I've already asked you for the first four episodes, but as we watched the whole series so far, first season, what did you think of the? What did you think? Just give like me a one sentence summary of what you thought of the series.
I rewatch our last episode. That's basically my same opinion.
Okay.
It's a poor adaptation. There's absolutely no reason to watch this.
Okay. Daniel.
It's really bad.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like this at all. I wasted so much time watching this nonsense.
We have to watch season 2 and 3 to waste more of your time.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not gonna watch the original show, but it's kind of comical how I could just assume like, oh yeah, they did that better in the show, didn't they? And Craig's like, yeah. So
But again, I feel like for this adaptation, you'd want to get people to watch the original, and I feel like you're
yeah,
going to scare people away because of how bad this is. Like, I can't sit through another 20 episodes of this.
I think down the line though, we are gonna watch the Shyamalan one, maybe sometime soon. Who knows? I'm definitely curious to see that.
And compare.
Yeah, and I have a feeling the Shyamalan might be superior in some ways.
I feel like I'm gonna end up enjoying that one more.
Yeah, probably. 'Cause
I
this
mean,
is just like this was a slog to get through. It was boring, uninspired.
do you think the fight scenes are bad here? You should wait to see the Shyamalan one.
Yeah, I've seen that one
Oh,
clip. I've seen that one clip.
Where 5 people need to move a boulder.
Yeah, this boulder that moves like 2 miles an hour. Well, yeah, I would say don't watch this show. It's a giant waste of time. Just
You're
stick
welcome.
with the TV show, the original one. Don't watch Netflix. Don't support them. They made trash. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I didn't like this at all. Craig didn't like it. Daniel didn't like it. So there you go. Don't watch it. So with all that being said, we have been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin,
I'm Craig.
And I'm Daniel.
and we will see you next time.